What's happening, everybody? How are y'all doing? Welcome back to the next episode of Mindful Reality, the channel that covers reality TV from a mental health perspective. So let's dive into this Challenge All Stars 4 finale. In terms of how people have felt about the season of the challenge, it has been a mixed bag. Some people are like, it's really dramatic. Some people are like, the games are too easy. Some people, like me, have been like, I love the nostalgia of everything. I love the fact that we get to see a lot of people that we haven't seen in a number of years. We get to see people who have not done anything like this in a number of years. I love the music. I love the whole ode to road rules that they've been doing. I love the jokes. I love that at least sometimes it's kind of lighthearted, like the old challenge that I remember. But the final left a lot for me to be desired. It was a two-parter. It was a 2-day final. We saw like a little bit of day 1 and we saw some people get eliminated from day 1. So picking up where the last episode left off, we had this big thing. Did Derek finish in last in this last challenge or did Laurel finish in last? Because whichever one of the two of them finished in last goes home. And let's be real, this was only interesting because Laurel was in the bottom two. If Laurel was not in the bottom two, they probably would have showed us the result of that in that same episode. But they're like, oh, it's Laurel. And I had a strong feeling that Laurel was going to be the one that made it through that. And sure enough, Laurel was indeed the one who made it through that. And if you forgot what the challenge was, it was this thing where they had to take this ring and then put it around a star and go from one end to the other. And I'm like, what kind of elimination game is that? First of all, um, but yeah, Derek was the last place finisher. So TJ says, Derek, as the last place finisher, you have a choice to give your star to one of the current competitors, and whichever one you give it to gets an advantage that is going to help them in the final. So he's like, oh, I'm going to give my star to Laurel because of the relationship that I have built with Laurel. And here it goes. And I'm like, of course he would give it to the strongest competitor there, arguably. Like she needs it. But anyways, we have this next channel. We have this next challenge. I'm sorry. Spicy Foot. Just plug it in my computer. Yeah, we have this next challenge and it's called Spicy Foot. These challenges are not even worth talking about at this point. That's really why I didn't have notes here. Yeah. But Nicole wins that challenge. And then they have a so she gets I think what was that? There's advantage challenges and there's elimination challenges. So we have something called balance for survival. Oh, okay. I didn't understand this note that I had in here. Yeah, balance for survival. I'm sorry about that. This episode was like I saw this episode at 5 a.m. So they had this thing called balance for survival where they were all balancing and they had to drink this juice and then they had to spit the juice into this tube and whoever finishes last place in that goes home. Really silly challenge. Another really silly challenge. So the order of the finishers for that one, Laurel finishes first, Nicole finishes second. Ace and then Kara, and then Steve, and then it's down to Veronica and Leroy. So Veronica and Leroy are going against each other. Leroy is struggling. Veronica was struggling too, but Laurel and Nicole are like yelling to Veronica, giving Veronica advice. And I guess Leroy was kind of a lone soldier here. So he didn't have anybody cheering for him. It didn't look like. So Veronica, it's funny because Laurel and Nicole were helping Veronica because they considered Veronica as a layup. So they're like, we want to keep this layup as long as possible. So Veronica ends up beating out Leroy, and Leroy goes home. I was sad for him. Carnival games. Like, how can you practice balancing on some platform and then figuring out how to tilt this thing of juice into your mouth and spit it into a cylinder faster than everybody else? That's just stupid to me. So Leroy goes home on that, but he's like, I feel rich or whatever because I'm going home to my baby boy, Kingston, and my wife, or, I consider her as his wife at this point, Cam. So after that, Leroy is the only one who doesn't give a star to Laurel. Leroy gives his star to Steve, and that was so great that Steve got a star because what he said was all true. Like, Steve deserved the star. Steve put in work for that star. So go Steve for that. So then we get this thing because TJ said we're going in an order like elimination advantage. So now we have hose ball for an advantage, which is that we got 3 teams and the teams are trying to use the hose to get the ball in the goal. So the 3 teams, I think they got a chance to pick for themselves. Team number 1, Nicole and Laurel. Team number 2, Steve and Veronica. Team number 3, Kara and Ace. So it seemed like the other 2 teams kind of went against Nicole and Laurel, especially Steve. I don't know. I guess Veronica maybe did not go against Steve. But yeah, that's how it went. And so the team that ends up winning this one was Kara and Ace. So Kara and Ace get an advantage. So we're going into the next one, which is a double elimination. So for this advantage, there's a few game rooms where they have different games, and every game is judged by time. And so Kara and Ace get the choice. One of them gets the choice to see all the rooms and go first, and only 2 people can go to each room. So when Kara gets to see all the rooms, pick which room she wants, she gets her pick of whatever, and then down the line, people are choosing who goes next. And so she went into this firearm room. Steve chose to go into the nail room. He said, it's like hand motto, hopefully I get a Home Depot sponsorship out of this. I'm surprised at how funny I find Steve's comments every week. Because normally when they do something to death like that, I get tired of it. But for some reason, this Steve stuff just cracks me up each and every time. Veronica does a hard one, what ends up being a hard one, which is Marble Blast. Laurel does the nail room also, and she's like, don't get Laurel mad. Laurel smash. Boom, boom. Laurel is just this like angry machine that everybody should have wanted out before the final, but instead they're like, let's get Kara out. So Veronica and Nicole both lose this elimination, which is a double elimination, and they both give their stars to the person who already had the advantage, Laurel. oh, we're going to double up and give Laurel these stars. And I was like, oh. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, hopefully the advantage is like how it normally is, which is like a time advantage. Okay, person number one gets like a 5 minute head start. Person number two gets a 3 minute head start, or time based on how many stars you have, whatever. I thought it would have been something like that, or I hoped it would have been something like that. Instead, the advantage is ridiculous because that advantage represented being able to skip parts of the final based on how many stars that you had. She had 4 of them. So that advantage is, to me, the most significant advantage that has ever been given out in challenge history. With that said, at a point of this final, Steve was in first place, but he didn't use his advantage properly, and they made him go back. So he lost his lead, and he lost second place. I mean, he didn't lose second place because him and Kara got the same thing, but Steve lost his lead that he had. Even with that huge advantage that Laurel had, she was still in second place at one point. But in the end, she ended up winning. And to be quite honest with you, yeah, I'm not a fan of Laurel. I've never been a fan of Laurel. I did not want Laurel to win. But when people win fair and square, I always give them credit like they won fair and square. Like when Johnny Bananas was winning, I was not any kind of fan of Johnny Bananas, but every time when he won, I was like, I hate the fact that he won, but he climbed that mountain. He ate whatever. He finished all those puzzles. He did whatever he had to do, and he was the best performer. So I have to give credit where credit is due. In her case, I don't consider her as the best performer. I don't want to go as far as to say that production gave her the win, because I know a lot of people are saying that, but I will say they made it really advantageous for her. I don't have a ton of respect for this type of win, and that final didn't seem particularly hard. Seemed like I feel like the flagship finalists and like the Challenge USA finalists and the Challenge World Championship finalists would be looking at this like, man, if our final was like this, I'd want to be on every season. That was a disgrace to the franchise to make a final like that and to give somebody the ability to have that huge of an advantage that is just not even fair at that point. So that's what happened. Laurel finished in first. Carr finished in second. Steve finished in third. Ace finished in last. Second and third got $25K a piece. I think first was $250K if I'm not mistaken. And that's it. I'm not excited about the final. I'm not excited about the episode. Wasn't interesting. I didn't like the format. I mean, the format might have been okay, minus that whole star advantage thing. The format might have been okay if the games were harder, if the games were more challenging. That was weak. That was weak sauce. That was a weak final. So those are my closing thoughts on the Challenge All Stars 4 finale. Please, I hope that All Stars 5 did better, because I think they have either finished filming or they're currently filming. I don't know, but I hope they did better, because it's like reading a book and the book is really good, but it has an anticlimactic ending. So if I had to rate this season, I might give it like a 7.5 out of 10, with the only thing being an A being the music. So thanks for joining me. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to get notified of when your boy drops some more great content. Thank y'all and have a great evening.